The strange universe is still here, COVID is still here, and now there's just so much information being thrown at us from so many different angles, it's very hard to organize and categorize and parse the information correctly. So we got together with Dr. Dan Grove and other medical professionals to help sift through that information and find out what's the deal with COVID.
Today we're talking with Dr. Lisa Hollander, also known as Esther in our community. She is a board-certified adult and geriatric psychiatrist practicing here in Pikesville, Maryland. And we're going to talk about the mental health challenges related to COVID-19. So Dr. Hollander, what are the major challenges you're seeing both in your practice and around the community related to the COVID-19 pandemic?
So I think it's important to divide new disorders that in people who never had a psychiatric problem before from people who have pre-existing anxiety, depression, and are really suffering and struggling more than before. Would also add that there are people doing better than their usual. There are a number of people who are saying the world is living like they live, but we're focusing on those who are suffering.
So what kind of challenges are you seeing that people are dealing with?
A lot of the challenges are fear-based. People are afraid. I've heard about a lot of people that don't have COVID and are so afraid that they're going to give COVID to someone else. And it's restricted their movement, it's restricted their ability to have pleasure, it's restricted their ability to comfortably interact with their older relatives, and multiple generations are suffering as a result. Some people are depressed, people are struggling, some people, financial struggles lead to depression. They're lonely. The seniors in our community, some of them are so isolated in a way that no one should ever be isolated. I do believe that most people have been able to access their care if they're under care. A lot of it's through telehealth, which in the majority of cases can really work well. It doesn't always work well with young children, but people who have seen mental health providers should still be seeing those people, should be getting the care they need. Referral to new people, there may be backlogs. We do have a wonderful resource in our community through Relief, and if anyone does not have that information, we should try to post it. I also would say that there's a local suicide hotline through Grassroots, and let's at the end see if we can post these numbers because they're great resources.
So aside from making sure that people keep their regular telehealth visits with their psychiatrists or mental health providers, what are some things that people can do sort of every day to either ease the challenges and the struggles or to prevent them if possible?
So I think it's important to maintain as much normalcy as you can. We've had fantastic weather lately. People should get out. If they're not quarantined, they should be out walking. They should be visiting friends from a distance. They should feel reasonably comfortable going about to do basic business with common sense guidelines. People at this point, unless they're medically vulnerable, should not be afraid of going to the grocery store. They should not be afraid of picking up a package left on their front door. I think keeping up with where we are with COVID is really, really helpful. To understand how it's transmitted, how it's not, and to let go of the fears that are not based in reality. I think it's also important to try to keep a regular schedule. Some people who don't have the normal routine say that their sleep-wake schedule is out of whack, and that leads to problems.
Staying with normal activities, probably getting out a lot, enjoying the sun. I'm guessing exercise is beneficial, and a regular sleep-wake time. When is the point where somebody needs more than that? When should somebody seek professional help, either in an emergency setting or otherwise?
I think in a way you're asking what is the difference between feeling sad and discouraged versus depression. And sadness and feeling discouraged are normal emotions. Depression is a state where people begin to lose the ability that they can come up for air. They may lose motivation. They may not be able to experience pleasure. They may be overwhelmed with feelings of guilt. There can be sleep disruption, people waking up in the middle of the night who weren't waking up before, or needing to sleep all day. And there can be crying and sadness, but you don't always have to have that to have depression. Those symptoms are called neurovegetative symptoms. If someone is starting to get physical signs of depression or emotional signs that they just can't shake off and they can't put aside to go about to do normal things, that's where they should be getting help.
If somebody doesn't struggle themselves with a mental health condition or is not currently struggling in that way in this pandemic, how can they help and support friends, family, loved ones who are struggling with these things?
So That's a great question because there's two pieces to that. On one hand, you want to be a good, supportive friend and relative. We want to be there for each other. We want people to know that there's someone they can turn to talk. At the same time, we have to know our limits. Mental health professionals are trained so that the bucket doesn't overflow. Part of the training in mental health is almost to have a spigot so that the outflow and inflow of ability to hear SORAS are measured. Friends and relatives don't usually have that ability. And I tell people sometimes they have to find the words that they can use to say to someone they really care about, I care about you so much that I want to make sure that you're talking to someone who really is qualified to help you with this. I'm not qualified, and that's why I'm going to recommend that you speak to someone else. There's an organization in Baltimore called Relief, which is a sort of shotgun to help people who need mental health resources help find the appropriate resources.
And there's also an organization called Grassroots, I believe.
Grassroots runs a 24-hour hotline, and if someone needs to talk to someone, they're in doubt, they don't know, they can pick up the phone and they can call the Grassroots hotline.
And that's here for the Baltimore area?
It's for the greater Baltimore area. Also be aware if there's ever a doubt about an emergency, call 911.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hollander, and hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Dan. Thank you, other medical professionals. Social distance. Our hope is that this video has kind of given you a little bit of base information to help you understand what's the deal with COVID.